Warning! The Stone Age Gamer podcast includes a lot of bad language. Cover your motherfucking ears.
Good evening and welcome to the Stone Age Gamer podcast. I'm Kris Randazzo and joining me tonight is Reciprocating Ribs, Dan Ryan.
I don't have anything for that one.
I looked it up. I believe that is the correct terminology for the way the ribs move in this game is reciprocating. Yeah. I wanted to say oscillating, but that's not it. Oscillating involves turning. But like a piston
like a
movement.
Fan.
Exactly.
Left and right.
A piston movement is like a reciprocation movement. Anyway, it's time for this month's Alphabet Super Series. It was Dan's pick for the letter L, and he chose Life Force for NES. How does this salamander-fueled Gradius spin-off fare blow up some enormous red blood cells? Because the Stone Age Gamer podcast starts now. Hi everyone, this is episode 509. It is the week of April, not 5th. Boy, did I not do that? No. Oh, I know what else I didn't do. 8th. Anyway, all right. It's April 12th, the week of April 12th. That's when this episode's going to go live. 2024. Monday for the early access folks.
For Patreon subscribers. Yeah. I know. I understand. Eclipse Day. You get an Eclipse and a podcast on the same day if you're a patron? That's right. The Eclipse is only for patron subscribers. Like, if you are not a patron of this podcast, you cannot go look at the Eclipse.
If you listen to this podcast, if you start it 10 minutes before the Eclipse, the podcast lines up with the Eclipse. The content, it's just like the Dark Side of the Moon with Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
It's amazing how we planned that. We're very good at what we do.
Right when the sun gets blocked out by the moon, Kris yells cunt really loud. It's amazing. It's just like, oh my God.
I don't use that word often. I make sure when I do, it counts.
Man. Yeah.
So I wanted to go pick up a controller the other day.
Yeah.
I'm playing, not the other day. It was today. No, was it today? No, it was yesterday. I went to go pick up a controller yesterday. I was going to load up Life Force. I wound up playing it today, but I was going to load up Life Force yesterday, and I went to go grab my NES controller, and my wires, they're a freaking mess. And I was looking at them like, all right, you know what I really would wish I had? You know those Velcro cable ties?
Yeah.
Like those things are the best, right? Those are great. They're high quality. I've got a couple of them laying around, but it would be amazing if I could get like a bunch of those. They're probably stupid expensive, right? Because they're the nice things.
Why not?
I go look, because everything, even vaguely nice, is expensive. I went on Amazon. It was like $6 for 150 of them. So they showed up today. God. Yeah, I was like, what the hell? And they came in a brick all stuck together. Just like you just peel off one after another. They're very space efficient. So now I've got a lot of them, and I just re-wrapped all of the regular controllers I use regularly. And they're all in a laundry basket. I did that during movie time this evening with the kids, and my fingers are kind of dried out from dealing with all that pointy Velcro, but all my controllers are handled in nice, neat fashion. They're like, I don't have the cables wrapping around themselves and getting all twisted and stuff anymore. It's real nice. I'm going to go through and do everything like that, and I feel like a jackass because, like, I don't know, a year ago, I bought a package of pipe cleaners to wrap up all my controller cables in.
Sure.
It's like, well, I want to do something that's little, like, I wish I had zip tie or cable ties, but cable ties are super expensive to get like a whole ton of them. I'm not going to get that. I'm not going to use zip ties. I'm not going to cut them every time I want to. I wish I had those Velcro things, but I bet they're too expensive. So I know I'll buy cheap-ass pipe cleaners. But I did that, and it's fine. But these Velcro things, way nicer. I'm going to go through and do everything in Velcro cable ties, and it's going to be fucking great.
That's awesome. Cables, it's the worst. It's the worst.
I am not great at cable management, but Matt Much is, and I keep wanting to like invite him over to be like, could you make my computer setup pretty cable tie and related? Yeah. Because like, man, he knows what he's doing as far as like hiding cables, and it's something I just don't have a talent for. Every time I try to do it organized, it always just looks like a fucking rat's nest when I'm done. And I wish it was pretty and elegant, and you didn't see cables wrapped all over the place. But I don't know what else to do. I don't have the brain for it, Dan. I don't have the brain.
I don't know. Yeah. I have to, at some point, I'm going to put the wires from my television through the wall. I got to cut some holes in the wall and like run them down. But then tonight, like right before we started recording, like I came down to my computer to start doing some shit. And I was like, oh, fuck, man. Like I'm not connected to the internet. That's weird. Let me go upstairs and reboot the router. That shit happens sometimes. Yeah, whatever.
Routers can't be trusted.
No, they're fucking shifty as shit. So I went up, rebooted the router, came downstairs, still not connected to the internet. I know what it is. Let me reboot the computer. Sometimes that shit happens. Computers, they also can't be trusted. Rebooted the computer, still not connected to the internet. I was like, well, I mean, the only thing left is that the puppies have chewed through the wire. And if they have, I'm going to strangle them with it. So I went out into the other room and like I ran the wire and it's all like tucked and taped and covered and nope, they still got to it and chewed right through the wire. So I'm like, all right, let me look up some prices for Ethernet cable real quick on the old interwebs there, so I can have a wired connection for this show. And Home Depot, for a 50-foot Ethernet cable, Home Depot wanted $40. And I was like, well, I guess we're doing it Wi-Fi, unless I can find it cheaper, because I'm not spending fucking $40. Amazon has it cheaper, but it's not going to be here in the next 7 minutes when I need it. We're not quite there yet. I was like, all right, Walmart, 50-foot cable, $10. Done. Let me run to Walmart real quick. So I'm run over to Walmart. Get to Walmart. What I love. See, here's the thing, Chris. I try my very best. Even giant fuck corporations like Walmart, I would still rather go to a brick and mortar store than I would on Amazon. I feel like Amazon is the worst of all of them, and then like it's degrees less for everybody else. Walmart, pretty fucking close to Amazon, not as bad. Anyway. So I go to Walmart, and the reason people shop on Amazon, I feel, is because when I looked at Walmart's website, it said in aisle L3, we have a 50-foot Ethernet cable in stock for $10. Fuck yeah. Let's go get it. I go to the store, go to aisle L3, look at the Ethernet cables, look at the empty spot where the 50-foot one should be, because they don't have any, even though the website said we have it in stock currently. Come get. I could even have ordered it for pickup or for fucking delivery to my car. Like, they were going to let me do all of those things. But it wasn't there. And the price was $18. It was $8 more expensive than the website. It's like, well, the 75-foot one that's next to it is only $20. So I tried to go to your brick and mortar store. You said you had it. You said it was one price. I showed up. It's more expensive, and you don't fucking have it. This is why we go to Amazon. So, all of that is to say, I now have a way too long Ethernet cord running across, like, the ceiling of my downstairs living room and, like, draped in, and I don't know what I'm going to do with all this extra wire. I've just got copious amounts of extra cable, and I am very unhappy about it.
Well, did you strangle the dogs?
Oh, no, not yet. I'm saving that for a special occasion.
Okay, I was on the edge of my seat.
God damn it.
You promised me dog strangulation, and you don't deliver.
Yeah, I know. Well, and like I can't. They're puppies. Like they chew and whatever. But it's fuck, man. Chew on other shit. I taped this down. This clearly wasn't for you. That's why I put tape over it. You should know better. Fucking dicks. Oh man, seriously, I have like 35 foot of Ethernet cable just bunched up on the floor in my office right now. I have way too much. How am I supposed to manage an extra 35 feet? Because like earlier, I thought, let me check it real quick. Let me just strip the wire and see if I can't fucking splice this back together. There's way too many wires inside there. It's like, no, I'm not fucking doing that. It's not a thing I have time for right now. Pain in my ass.
I'm very sorry.
Cable management sucks. It's the worst.
It does. I'll tell you what's not the worst. Fucking yard work. And I did some. Granted the weather hasn't been perfect, but it was nice enough. I had a brief window, and I was able to get outside and finally put the new blades on my trencher. And I was thrilled. Because, holy crap, the new blades that I got are like, a solid...
Make all the difference?
1.5 to 2 inches longer in every direction, because that's how much I wore down the one that came with it. And the one that I used actually wound up getting worn down pretty quick, too. I had to keep tightening them. Like, they just kept getting loose, because these are like weird off-brand ones or whatever. But that's fine. I just kept the ratchet in my pocket, and every couple of minutes or so, I'd just give it a tighten, and then I'd be able to get back to work again. And it's still, it definitely knocked off some of the blade again, just from the amount of work I needed to do to get the trench dug in the first place. But I'm pretty confident now that I know what I'm doing better. I'll be able to maintain this better, and I won't be like blasting through blades. I'll just need to, in a week or so, I'll go out there and do it again. Now that I'm not digging through tons of shit, and I can see the lines of where the sidewalk is better. But I also have a couple of spots where the sidewalk is way lower than the grass that's next to it already. So in order to get that like carved out, like I can't, it's just not deep enough to actually make a trench. I have to like put the trencher on the grass part just so that I can make it flat going up against the edge of the sidewalk. It's not a perfect solution, but it's a hell of a lot better than it was. And it just felt good to get outside and do some stuff. I'm coming up with some plans for my garden this year. I'm just, again, going all in on tomatoes and herbs, because that's really all I use. I guess I don't really need to do much. Parsley is already way out of control. Got so much parsley back there, it's ridiculous. Which is great, because eventually butterflies, butterflies love parsley, and butterflies are great for the environment. So, I'll have plenty of butterflies cooking, but holy shit, the parsley that because I culled it all last year. It was all getting really big. Yeah. The oregano was way out of control. The thyme was out of control. It's like, all right, we never used the thyme, so you're fucking out of here. And the oregano, I just cut everything down to nothing. Just ripped it all up and was like, I'm just going to start fresh next year. And then like a month ago, the parsley just starts shooting back up again, like, oh, but now it's everywhere. It's not just where the parsley was before. It's just like, this is a field of parsley now, and some oregano's coming back, and my scallions are fucking enormous. Like, almost unusable at this point. They're so... they're like an inch radius. Like, that's too big for scallions. They're out of control. They're fucking delicious, but they're just nuts. So I'm letting those go to seed, and I'm just going to let them... Let's see what happens, right? Spread the new ones, and I'll try to prune those regularly to keep them small. And that's what I'm trying to do with the parsley, because a couple of those plants are already like super thick and coming in like really thick and dark, and oh my god, it's delicious. I made a chicken parm pizza tonight. Was our specialty pie, and
very nice.
So we had some fresh Parmesan from last week when I made spaghetti sauce. I bought some fresh Parmesan to grate, and we had some of that left, so it was like extra sauce on the bottom, a layer of shaved fresh Parmesan, then the breaded chicken tenders chopped up into little bitty bits, thick layer of mozzarella, and then more grated Parmesan on top. And then after it comes out of the oven, I sprinkle a bunch of fresh parsley on it. And just like the couple of sprigs I got out of the back, I just, go out there with the shears, chop off a bunch of the tops, and then just grind it down. Smelled so good, damn good. It smelled so good. Like, this parsley is top freaking notch. I'm so excited about it. I'm going to cook so much weird shit this summer. Excited. Excited, simple. Oh my goodness.
I'm happy for you, man. I still fucking hate it. I hate it so much.
Parsley or gardening?
Cooking.
Oh, right. Cooking. I love cooking.
Cooking, I just find to be fucking repellent.
I love cooking, which is great for our our budget, because it's a hell of a lot cheaper than ordering out.
It really is. I really, honestly, I wish that I like to cook. I really do. It would be so much better. But no, that is just not a thing I like to do. And you can't make me. And I'd appreciate it if you'd stop fucking trying. Okay?
No, you fucking do it. I'm going to come to your house. You're going to wake up in the middle of the night with a whisk in one hand and a bowl of eggs in the other. You're going to have one of that adorable chef's hat on, an apron, and nothing else.
Nothing else, no.
Nothing else. Apron's going to be on backwards, too.
That way it's covering the important bits.
What a picture.
Oh, goodness gracious. Picture. I know, that's a fucking... Come on now. That's a great picture. These are the kinds of things...
Why don't we have more listeners, Dan?
Yeah. These are the kinds of things that make me just chuckle, knowing that one day, hopefully, my children will listen to this podcast and just be like, God damn it. Fuck is wrong with Dad and his friends?
Someday, when we're long gone and our kids are parents and grandparents themselves, they're going to go back and be like, what was Grandpa like? Well, we just so happen to have a record of that.
We happen to have a whole lot of him just being weird and filthy. Him and his strange ass friends. Like.
There you go. There it is.
That was it. Yeah, it's good stuff. Good stuff.
Oh man, I feel like it's been an eventful week, but it really hasn't. It's just been it's just kind of been a slog. Karen's been busy with work. The kids have been off on spring break, and I've just been trying my best to get work done whenever I can. And it's I'm kind of ahead of the game. Got next week's video done.
That's nice.
Yeah, I got next week's blog done. I'm like kind of caught up on things, and it's weird to feel that way because I'm so used to just constantly being behind. Now, there's obviously other stuff that I wish I could be working on tomorrow, but I've got to put the pedal to the metal because I have 2 more reviews left for Nintendo Force, and they need to be done. Like I just got assigned the due dates, which is a week from today. And
they're tomorrow. Due dates were yesterday. God damn it.
It's still a little far off on those. The one I'll be able to start pretty soon. I finished Contra.
Nice.
It's fucking great. It's a fucking mess. I really wish it wasn't a fucking mess, but it's a fucking mess. During the last level, I was, running and gunning, and then I just fucking fell through the floor.
Why not?
There wasn't a hole there. I just fell through the floor, just right through the geometry, like boom, right down there.
Done.
It's like, well, that fucking sucked there. That's some health that I needed, but whatever game. But it's so fun. It's so fun. It's so hard to be mad at it because like everything I'm doing is awesome. And the more you play it, the more you can level up your character so that you can make the game easier on yourself.
Which is nice.
I bought the ability where all the weapons, instead of you get, like in Contra 4, you get a weapon, and then if you get it again, it powers up. So you get a spread gun or a super spread gun. I have this thing enabled where I just get it, the super weapon, no matter what. Like there is no normal weapon unless I take a hit. Because you can also give yourself a life bar in this one instead of one hit kills like classic Contra. And I'm like, yeah, I'm too old for that shit. Give me a health bar.
Give me the goddamn health bar. And then I will spend
more in-game currency to get a bigger health bar and more lives by default.
That's right.
Because I have nothing to prove. And this game's hard, and I'm too old to... I think I talked about this before. Like, I don't know if it's that I'm too old to perceive it properly, but like you really got to be paying attention to everything that's happening on the screen, like at a Contra game. But the sprite-based ones, I can just see better. This one, things are very clearly delineated, like what they are. Yeah. But I have every now and then I'll just die, being like, I didn't even see it. I didn't even see that thing. It was this glowing red thing that hit me. It doesn't blend into the background or anything. I just didn't fucking see it.
Just didn't see it. Yeah.
But the one piece of the game that I really need to experience before writing the review is multiplayer, and nobody else in this house is going to play Contra with me. So I have my friends coming over tomorrow night to put 4-player mode through its paces. It's Sean and Greg, who are both reasonably apt with games, and my friend Melissa, who has not played a video game in, I think, 20 years. So
nice.
It's going to be interesting to see how how it plays with people of varying skill levels. And I also just really want to see how it holds up, because if this game's already a technical mess with one player, I feel like 4 players is just going to it's either going to be weirdly fine or it's going to devolve into a slideshow. But I'm very curious to see how it actually pans out.
I kind of hope it's a slideshow.
It's just because it'll be funny. But that's the thing about this game, is it really handles itself well. Whenever things chug or whenever things start to slow down, it never affects you. Like, the game will start sacrificing all kinds of things, but your movement will never be hindered by it. Like, when the game finally catches up, you are going to be exactly where you feel like you should be. And that's an impressive feat. Doom did that really well too on the Switch. Like, it was able to scale whatever technical problems it was having, so that it never affected gameplay, and that's the most important thing. So that's wonderful. The other thing I have to write the review on is Princess Peach, and I've barely played it, but I have watched several other people play it now, and it has been fascinating because everyone's having similar but weirdly different experiences with it. We had Easter, and the kids' cousins came out, and I had Ellie's cousin Josie play it. Now, Josie, her brothers play games all the time, but she almost never plays video games. Mostly probably because her brothers are like, yeah, you stink, and they're like they're not very welcoming to her playing games with them and not being inherently good at them.
Well, she's a girl, so
there you go. She was able to understand the game just fine, and she refused to give up. Every time she would die a lot, but she never gave up. She was just like, no, I'm going to do this. And she was driven to do it because she could understand what she was supposed to do. She just wasn't actually pulling it off, which I thought was very interesting because, I've seen her play other games where it's just like, nah, I'm out of here. No, I don't, whatever.
I'm out. This sucks.
This didn't immediately work for me, so I'm out of here. But she stuck with this one, which was very cool to see. Now, obviously, Ellie is in a similar boat where she's, Super Mario Brothers or Kirby or whatever it is. If it involves moving a character and doing something at the same time, she just can't wrap her head around it. And this one, she's really sticking with, and she's been stuck and frustrated a handful of times, but with a little help from me, just kind of showing her what to do, she's made it through. And she really doesn't want to give up either. So that's another big win. I had her friend, another one of her friends came over, and she plays games a decent amount. She plays a lot of Minecraft. And she handled the game very well. She read what the game was trying to tell her super, super well. And she thought it was adorable, and she had an absolute blast playing it. Then when her mom came to pick her up, she played the game, and she never plays video games, and she played the baking stage only, and she thought that was a blast. But she was getting stressed out, and it was so fun to watch this specific thing of like, all right, here's somebody who just does not have experience with video games. How is she going to react to the way this game works? And she could handle the movements just fine, but what kept tripping her up was not being able to tell when the game was controlling Peach and when the game wanted her to control Peach, which is something that never occurred to anybody else who's played the game that I've watched. All the kids and my wife, But that was a disconnect for her. I was like, I didn't even consider that. Like, never would I have considered that. Another problem.
Like, you mean during like cutscenes and shit?
Like a cutscene will end, and she just didn't pick up on what the game was telling her. It's time to start controlling Peach again. Like when the camera pans out a little bit more, and it's like, here's the game, and she just stands there for a minute, like, oh, I guess I should be controlling her again. It's like, these are the things that we don't even think of because we understand video game language, but she didn't understand video game language. That was another thing. Josie kept not understanding that she needed to move to the right. Like, the stages tend to move left to right a lot of the times. And it was like, well, I just don't see the clear path, so I'm going to keep going back or try to walk into the background, because in the first stage, they're talking about how this castle in the background is in trouble. But everything's presented as a stage play, so it's a prop in the background. Right. But they keep saying that the castle's in danger, we need to get to the castle. So she kept walking back to that thing and trying to get into the background. Like, well, they're telling me I need to go to the castle. But the going to the castle means going to the right, like stage right. They keep following the plot. And that was another disconnect. But anyway, Ellie's friend's mom, she thought the baking level was really fun because the baking level doesn't really involve fighting bad guys. It's like making cakes and then decorating cakes, like almost like Mario Party style mini games with some moving of the character around. But when watching her daughter play the more action stages, she was like, I don't think I could do that. But this baking one was really fun. So that was really interesting. And then the neighbor girls, I had both of them play it, and they had also different reactions. Like, I have them all written down, but they interacted with the environments, and they figured things out differently than everybody else did. But the common denominator with all of these people that don't play games a lot, with the exception of Ellie's one friend and John, who also plays the game, the one connective tissue is that this is something that I can understand on a fundamental level, and because of it, I feel rewarded enough to keep playing it. Which is
kind of like the whole thing.
Right, that's the whole thing, and that's something that I never see from other games with this specific audience. Now, usually I don't read reviews ahead of time because I always want to form my own opinions, but I was very curious what the discourse was around this. Kind of before I went to all the trouble of getting all these people over to my house to play this game and see what everyone was doing. And the common discourse I kept seeing was that this game is too easy and it's not rewarding. So even little kids can play Super Mario Brothers and get something out of it. And this just seems like it's too easy for even them. It's for little kids. And I'm looking at that response and thinking, I don't think that you have a lot of experience with people who don't play video games, because Karen can't play 3D Mario games. Karen can't beat Super Mario. Playing New Super Mario Brothers 4-player with us is a fucking nightmare. Playing the Kirby Star Allies with us was super frustrating. Any of these games that involve moving a character and doing things at the same time are super frustrating for her. Yeah. And it wasn't always that way with her. She was able to get through Sonic the Hedgehog as a little kid, but other than that, video games, she likes video games. She plays Suika games, she plays Dr. Mario. She's 100%ed Runner 2. That's not an easy task.
No,
she did
not
it on
at all.
All 3 difficulty levels. And what I noticed about that, like, I see her, you've accomplished this task. How can you not get this? How is it that you're good enough at this, but not this? And it's because in Runner, she doesn't have to move the character and interact with things. The character moves automatically, so all she has to do is interact with things. Just like puzzle games. All she has to do is interact with things. It's not both at the same time. And that's a huge disconnect with a lot of players. When I see the kids get together and play Smash Brothers, they're just mashing buttons, right? But anytime they try to do something, they're falling off the edge and all that stuff because they can't figure out how to do those two things at once, how to move and interact at the same time. But then Mario Kart's a totally different animal, right? You just move and steer. And it's like, that's Mario Kart. So like, those kinds of things are for everyone. So when people say Mario or Kirby is like that this is easier than those, but that kids can play those games and get something out of them even if they don't finish them. I've witnessed firsthand that's not the case. Ellie gets nothing from those games but frustration.
Right, she hates them and doesn't want to play.
Loves the characters and wishes that she could play, but she can't because a level and a half into the game, she can't jump over something because it's like, how do I move and jump at the same time? I can't grasp that. And like, it doesn't make any sense to me as a gamer, but like looking at it, stepping out of myself and saying, all right, what is the actual problem here? That's what it is. It's the complication of multitasking within a game, which is something that John's struggling with this Super Mario Brothers, right? We're going back to Super Mario Brothers 1 with him that I've been doing for weeks now. And his whole thing is a complete inability to see the whole screen. To be like, all right, I'm just going to go and try and react, but he won't take into consideration where things are going to be, right? So like, it's very easy for him to get killed by a Goomba. Because even though the Goomba is just going to move forward, it has a static plan. It's just going to move forward at an exact normal pace, and that's all it's going to do. But he doesn't play the game thinking about, how do I make Mario jump and land where the Goomba is going to be? He looks at it like, I'm going to jump and land where the Goomba is instead of where it's going to be. And he misses, and he gets hit, and he gets frustrated. And that's what I'm watching him do. And I'm like, I need to train him to learn how to look at that differently, because that's just not the way his mind works when playing video games. And there's modern solutions to those problems that involve giving you temporary invincibility or giving you the ability to skip things, but it's not solving the innate problem, right? It's not taking it down to an even more simple level and showing you how to move forward. And I think that's what I think that turns a lot of people off.
Well, it's one of the things like we talk about all the time of like, we kind of grew up on the brilliance that is the first level of Super Mario Brothers. That game teaches you how to play video games, or how to play that type of video game. Right? Like, Pac-Man didn't do a really good job of teaching you how to play puzzle games or that sort of game, or how to play video games. It just like, oh, fuck. I'm freaking out and I'm figuring shit out like as I go, but it wasn't holding your hand through it. But we grew up playing that, learning how to play a video game, how to play that style of video game with Super Mario Brothers. And this generation has grown up playing games like Minecraft, where you just do shit.
Yeah, you just go.
Like, there is no objective a lot of the times.
The combat in that game is trash.
Oh my god,
all
it's
the mechanics
awful.
are awful.
Yeah, it's a horrendous game for the most part. But you just kind of do shit. And things happen, and you're like, oh, that's kind of cool, but it doesn't actually go about really like teaching you anything. It just drops you that sandbox of like, you can do anything. We're not going to tell you what to do because you can do whatever you want. Then trying to apply that sort of logic to a game that does have those specifics, yeah, like you can see how that would be frustrating. Or you could see how you would try to walk to the background.
Yeah, it's
pretty. Just go there.
Obviously, as me, sometimes it gets frustrating watching like my kids just not get the core tenets of video games, and a lot of it comes down to just the way that they learn. Like, I've wanted to start teaching. The first episode of the Stone Age Gamer podcast was about how am I going to teach my kids how to play video games. And it didn't fucking work because they weren't interested. They weren't interested in learning like that. They just wanted to do stuff. They don't think the way that I did when I was a kid. They just don't learn the same way. And so learning, starting with Space Invaders to get the basics of character movement and shooting, like that's the most basic example I could think of how you teach somebody how to understand doing two things at once. And like, there was no patience for it because everything's different now. We played those games and learned that way. Like, yeah, we learned through Super Mario Brothers because like, what was our option? There just wasn't anything else.
There
weren't other more simple mobile games or YouTube videos to get lost in for 7-8 hours at a time. Like, if you wanted to play video games, this is what you did.
These were the games that are available.
And shit. You know, they're fun, and we were able to find the fun in them because lots of things about them were new and exciting at the time. But by the time my kids were old enough to do that stuff, video games as a concept weren't as fun and exciting because they'd been seeing that shit since they were babies.
Yeah.
So it's all been very interesting, and I want to find a way around it. I want to find a way to get that education into kids, because what I keep telling John is whenever he gets frustrated with the other games that he's playing or anything that he's trying to do, and he just can't wrap his head around it, and most of it comes down to like his solution for everything is louder and harder. Like, just mash buttons, just angry. That'll fix the problem. And that's never the answer. Patience.
That's how Tiff got pregnant.
And I had this idea, and somebody's going to steal it. Somebody's going to steal it. But I had this whole idea while I was walking the dog the other day, thinking about my Princess Peach review. They should make, and I feel like it should be Nintendo making it because they have a way of making things fun, a game like Super Mario 101, and just have the game step by step teach you the core mechanics of every piece of like, this is how you beat this level. And like, you get to the Goomba and it teaches you the first Goomba, and it teaches you this is what its movement pattern is. Don't try to hit it from here, try to land where it's going. And then you practice that one jump, and then you practice jumping over gaps, you practice getting power-ups, you practice all these little things that it teaches you to do one by one. And then you have infinite tries to do all those things until you get past them. And then you have to play that stage in order to move on to the next thing that you need to learn. Like, it's a game about teaching the core basics of games. Gamifying learning how to play video games.
Right.
I think there's something there. But I mean, there might be wherewithal to do it.
It's an interesting thing too, though, like hearing you talk about this, because you've also admitted that you fall victim to this. With modern games, one of the things that doesn't appeal to you is how complicated they've become.
Right.
I don't want to do all these things with all of these buttons, and in order to do the things I need to do, I've got to hit, like I've got to press this and hold this and move this and do that, and 2 thumbs and 4 fingers, and I'm fucking flicking something with my nose, and like, you know, you've said yourself, like, you're just not interested in doing all of that. So like, I imagine there will come that point for me too, of like, all right, I'm out. You gone too far. I'm done. You know. That's just kind of interesting hearing that. Like hearing you talk about, because you got up to that certain point and you were like, "All right, fuck you."
Enough. I did. It's overwhelming, and I feel like a lot of that is definitely some me shit with, like I was just talking about. Like, it's weird feeling that I am caught up, because I always feel like any time that I'm spending playing games, almost any time I've spent playing games, it's time that I'm taking away from things that I should be doing. Like, I always have more things to do. There's always chores I should be doing. There's always work I should be doing, writing I should be doing. There's always something. So taking the time to learn a game that's complicated, that doesn't come naturally and intuitive and feel intuitive to me, like, that's time. I only have a half an hour to spend playing a game. Like, I want to play Horizon Zero Dawn, and I only have a half an hour to play, and 15 minutes of it is me trying to learn the basics of the controls. I'm never getting anywhere.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and that's certainly a large part of it, too, because so many games are just so vastly different for what you have to do. I mean, there's a lot of similarities, sure, but there's also a lot of nuance and subtlety to a lot of the different control schemes in different games where you're like, dude, stop it. Stop it.
It's a lot. There's a lot of complications going on there.
Even what's weird about it is, like, I've spent a decent amount of time, even though they fucking broke the game, and I'm mad at Sony San Diego for doing so. They pushed out an update that just totally fucked up the show. Like, nobody can hit anymore. It fucking sucks. Like, you're hitting good contact, like putting your PCI exactly where it's supposed to be, getting good contact on the ball, and it's like a foul ball. That should never fucking happen. They broke the fucking game. Anyway, so last year or the year before, I forget which year, maybe 2 years ago, they introduced the pinpoint pitching control, which was, I talked about before. It's basically, for anybody who doesn't know, it's instead of a button press, it is a fighting game motion, for lack of a better term, on the right thumbstick in order to throw the pitch. Right? So you aim the pitch with the left thumbstick, and then you got to do like a Hadouken to throw a fucking curveball or whatever. So it was the way it was for 2 years. This year, they updated some of the pitch motions. So it's like, all right, I have to relearn how to throw a sinker, or I have to relearn how to throw a slurve because the pitching motion is different. And on top of that, if you pitch with a left-handed pitcher, all of the pitching motions are reversed. So it's like, well, fuck, like, I know how to play this game. And you fucking went and changed a bunch of shit, and now I have to relearn how to fucking play this game. That's fucking annoying. I understand why you did it. It makes perfect sense. If a lefty is throwing a curveball, it's going to look differently than a righty throwing a curveball. But it's still a video game. I'm not actually doing it. Why
I was just talking. I guessed it on the Super NES podcast, and their next episode, I was like kind of excited to give some feedback on, because their next episode is going to be Super Bases Loaded. I'm like, man, I used to love Super Bases Loaded. I played the hell out of that game. I used to love sports games. Yeah. But modern sports games are so unbelievably daunting to me, because they're, once like the 16-bit generation hit, and once we got a little bit past that, is when the more powerful game systems got, the more focus was placed on realism. And I feel like a lot of the focus stopped being on just making it a fun game. Yeah. And so fun games wind up being relegated to ridiculous arcade style things. Whereas when you look at like Super Bases Loaded isn't hyper realistic, but by 16-bit video game standards, it was realistic sports simulation, but it was also not overly complicated. And there needs to be, I say needs like I'm in charge of shit, but there should be, if I were in charge of video games, somebody should be making sports games where the primary focus is fun, and then everything else comes after. Like, the first thing you need to do is make a baseball game that can be played by just about anybody who likes baseball, and make any augmentations, any like as deep as you want to get into it, make that possible. But it all has to come from a simple core tenet of, this should be fun. If this isn't fun and rewarding, like the basic core concept, just fun and rewarding, if that doesn't work, then none of the rest of this shit matters. No matter how realistic you make it, it doesn't fucking matter if the game's not fun. Well, like, I would love to see that happen with sports games again. I would love to see that happen.
I would too. I would love to see something like NFL Street come back, or NBA Street. Like, those games were so fucking fun.
They are, but you know what? They don't need to wrap it up in this street concept. Make the realistic sports game that fun. Make fucking Blades of Steel is so much fun. And then I think back to, like, I had a lot of fun playing the NHL 19 with my friends on Xbox Live last year. That was a hoot. But like at the same time, I had to spend like an hour learning how to be a goalie. I had to spend an entire chunk of my life training at a position. It's like, it's a video game. I should be able to just get in there and have some fun. Yeah.
Well, like if you take Madden, for example, so when you're playing Madden, right, you're controlling the quarterback until you release the ball. But as the quarterback, you move the quarterback with the left analog stick. And then you throw with, depending on how many receivers you have on the field, you can have up to 5 receivers on the field. And how you throw the ball depends on the type of button press you do. So like mashing the button down is a bullet throw. Tapping the button is a touch throw, and like a press and release is a lob, right? So just right there, if you've got 5 receivers on the field, you can throw the ball 15 different ways, okay? Just with the different buttons, because they're all pressure sensitive. Then on top of that, you can also aim the ball with the right analog stick to either be like a front shoulder catch, a back shoulder catch, high or low. So you've got all of these different things that you're trying to do at one time for, as you said, the sake of realism. Because on an NFL field, the quarterback drops back, and they're going to throw the ball with a certain amount of strength in a certain position to avoid the defender. And all of that's great, but man, that becomes fucking complicated in a video game. It's right. 2:00 in the morning. I'm fucking drunk. I'm just trying to go out here and win the Super Bowl. God damn it.
If I wanted to play NFL,
I would have been a fucking quarterback. God damn. Yeah, it's wild, man. It's crazy. But, it is a shame. I think ultimately, back to your original point, I think the big takeaway from this discussion is that it is a shame the Alpha Bros don't like Princess Peach Showtime.
It is a shame.
It is, because it's obvious, it's clearly a game that was made for them, and they missed the mark. That is unfortunate. There's really not a lot for the Alpha Bros to go play, This was right down the pike, right for them, right in their wheelhouse. Nintendo was like, who fucking, the wolves not sheep guys. Those are the guys we're fucking aiming for with Princess Peach Showtime. Like, why are they even fucking commenting on it? It's not for you. Stay out of it. It's just not for you. It's okay.
And not everything is going to be. If you are going to comment on it, and that's why I did what I did, I'm going to comment on this game, I'm going to look at it through the lens of its intended audience, which isn't me. Like, I think it's cool that I get some fun out of the game. Like, I do think it's fun to play. It's pretty easy, but it's nice to have something nice and breezy from time to time, It's that's a good time. Whereas
not everything has to be this fucking epic struggle.
Yeah,
where everything's so serious.
Just kind of like cruising along. That's a good time. Oh man! By the way, Big Pop just happened. I got $34.97 on each device.
That's very exciting.
That's glorious.
I'm turned on.
And the small one's going to go off in a little while.
I'm aroused.
Yeah.
I mean, usually, good times. But like even more so now.
Right. Why wouldn't you be?
You would think. Think it would be getting less as I get older, game. Chris. It's not.
I have to have the review for this game written in a week, and I'm personally I'd like to finish the game before I write the review. Like, I've now gotten all the information from other people, but I need tomorrow to play 4-player Contra, and then I need to try and beat this game like through the course of this week so that I can crank out a review. I think it's doable, but it's gonna be a slightly stressful week. But outside of that, really, there hasn't been much else game playing. I spent a little bit more time on my VCS. I wound up putting like an hour into Milli and Greg. I don't know if you remember me mentioning this game like months ago. It's just a cool little Dadish style platformer. I restarted the original Dadish just because I was itching for some Dadish. So I went back to the first game, and it's just such a delight. It's just such a simple platformer. The rules make perfect sense. It's funny, and there's no time limit stakes. Like, I really missed that with Daily Dadish, where everything was like, I got a speedrunner, I won't get the star. I was just like, just fucking take your time. It's nice and chill. And Milli and Greg is a similar situation. And of course, I've played more Cash Cow DX, which is still a masterpiece. And I still don't think it's quite as good as Donut Dodo, but that's a really high bar. It's a very fun game. What's neat about this, and I wish Donut Dodo had this, and maybe it got it in an update and I just didn't realize it at some point, but Cash Cow has a practice mode where you can just skip to whatever stage you want. Your score won't count, but whatever stage you want, you can try over and over and over again just to practice that stage, because in order to unlock new modes, you have to play through the game like an arcade game, and you have to do it without losing. Like, here's your limited number of lives. Get through this game or game over. But the practice mode lets me figure out the mechanics on each stage. But the trouble I have with it is, again, it's this, I haven't quite tuned my awareness to make sense of the chaos that is this game. Because, like, and I had a similar problem with the last stage in Donut Dodo, where there's these doors all over the place where you had to, like, go in one and you teleport to another. And there's just, you have to have this situational awareness of where everything is at any given time. And in Cash Cow, the game moves pretty quickly, and it does a lot to notify you where there's danger. It's really, really brilliant. Like, as you move, if there's an enemy off screen that you can't see, a flashing arrow will show up right in front of you and say, there's something there. And I never see it. It's super obvious, but I haven't quite tuned myself in to pay attention to all those things. And I'll get in the groove every now and then where I can just, like, I'm seeing everything. It's all falling into place, like Tetris mode, like where you see, your eyes go blurry and you just kind of see the game. I'll get into that mode, right? Sometimes with this game, but I can't consistently do it yet. And I die so often from, like, really stupid things that I should have seen coming. But it's so fun. This Studio Pixel has my freaking money for life. It just, whatever you guys do, like, it's just like Sabotage with the Messenger. Like, you hit something so perfectly. You just nailed it. Whatever else you do, I will at the very least try. You've got my business for life. Well done. And
you found your niche. Stay in your lane and make awesome shit.
Yeah.
Don't try to now make a fucking 3D shooter.
No, you know what? Go for it. Fucking do it. Because what happened with the Messenger, right? You did a Ninja Gaiden thing. They moved on to a turn-based RPG, and it was a fucking masterpiece. Make a first-person shooter. Whatever you do, I'm there for. Whatever it is. And we'll talk about something similar to that a little bit later.
Yeah, I want to see Sabotage take on a 2D fighter, and I want them to make it as deep and meaningful as they've done with The Messenger and Sea of Stars.
That would be amazing. And you know what? If anyone can do it, it's them.
But if anybody could do it, it'd be them. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. All right, so that's me and video games this week. What about you? What have you been up to?
Really not too much. I have not had nearly as much time to get into any of the games that I wanted to get into this week. Like, I still have those demos sitting here, haven't touched them, because I had to fucking play this game that I picked. That took up way more of my time than I thought it was going to, because it's just that kind of game. We'll talk about that in a little bit. The new season of Marvel Snap did start, though, and they do this really, I don't know, making collectible card games seems really difficult, right? Like, it seems really, really hard. And Marvel Snap has done some really, really amazing things, I think, over their short existence, a little bit over a year that the game has been out. of really just making it super fun and pretty easy to jump into. And this is a game, as you were saying earlier, that does a really good job of kind of teaching you the basics before the cards get way more complicated as you go throughout the game. It does a really good job of introducing you to the basics of the cards, how this type of card game works. They are certainly limited by the structure of what they've come up with. You have a 12-card deck. You know, like that's it. You have a 12-card deck. There's 6 rounds. You start with 3 cards in your hand. Like, it's a very small amount of cards to have in a deck as compared to something like Pokemon or Magic where you're dealing with like 40 cards or whatever. But in an effort to keep the game, you know, kind of fun and interesting, they continue to buff and nerf cards as they go throughout the seasons. And some of the things that they do just kind of leave me scratching my head, you know, where it seems like certain things... Thanos is the big problem. Thanos has been...
Isn't he always?
Thanos has been a big problem in this game. Like, the meta of Marvel Snap, it has revolved around Thanos for quite a bit, because Thanos has the unique ability in Marvel Snap of adding the 6 Infinity Stones to your deck. So your 12-card deck is now...
Is that why it's called Snap? Because the Thanos snap?
Yeah. And you snap for cubes and that sort of thing.
I get it.
Took you a while. So
I'm slow, man. What do you want?
That's all right. But your 12-card deck goes to a 16-card deck, which is, you know, kind of a significant thing. And the stones add a lot of utility, and just there's a lot of advantages to playing a Thanos deck. And they are somewhat difficult to pilot, because if you're... The bonus for playing all 6 Infinity Stones is that Thanos goes from a 6-cost 10-power card to a 6-cost 20-power card. However, you can only put up to 4 cards at each spot. There's only 3 locations, so the most you can get out is 12 cards. If you have other cards that can draw, or there's a bunch of different ways to get all of your cards out. With Thanos, if you play all of the Infinity Stones, they're all relatively low powers. So you're adding at most 3 or 4 points to locations. That doesn't help you win. There's a lot of strategy that goes into it. The big problem with Thanos, though, has been every new card that they release is like, well, just put it in Thanos and it's awesome. So they wanted to nerf Thanos. And what's interesting when Second Dinner does this shit is sometimes they pull out a nerf and it's like, well, that's over. Cool. Like, instead of buffing other cards, they will nerf the strong card into oblivion for like a couple of months, and then they'll be like, all right, we're going to return some power to them. You know, and it's just this weird fucking thing that they walk. It's just, like I said, I imagine it's very, very difficult. I'm not a game developer. It just seems to me like maybe buff some other shit instead of, like, you kill the fun of a lot of these cards, and it's like, well, this isn't as much fun as it used to be, and that kind of sucks. But regardless, whatever. Snap. I already talked about a little bit about the show, but the show has been really weird this week, and I spent a long time, like, thinking it was me, of like, I don't know, maybe I just got bad at this game all of a sudden. And no, it's not just me, but they put out some shit that really fucking broke the game. So what we did instead was we went and played through the Derek Jeter storyline, which was just so fucking cool. Like, they did a really great job last year with the Negro League storylines, and they've done a really good job. So I've only played one chapter of the Negro League storylines this year with Tony Stone, who is the first female professional baseball player. She played for a couple different teams throughout, I think it was like the 40s and 50s, but ended up playing for, I think it's the Cleveland Clowns. I could be wrong that it's Cleveland, but it was like a northern team that was called the Clowns. Hank Aaron was their second baseman. He left, and a girl, God forbid, took over and played professional baseball, which is just kind of awesome. And she's somewhat of a controversial and problematic figure, but she is also the first one to do it. So that's kind of neat. But playing through the Derek Jeter stuff was just really awesome, because there's these like sit down interview segments with Derek as he is introducing like what you're about to do in the clip, and talking about, having to get, like when it talks about him getting his first hit. It was in Seattle. It was in the Kingdome, which is not the stadium they play in currently. And Derek Jeter is there in an interview talking about how nervous he was. And he was this, skinny punk kid and growing up a Yankees fan. And all he ever wanted to be was shortstop for the Yankees. And now he's the fucking shortstop for the Yankees. And like, what do you do? You're the dog that caught the car. What do you do? Now he's got all this pressure to get his first hit. And then it drops you into the Kingdome, and you have to get Derek Jeter's first hit. And that's just kind of awesome. Like it's just this really cool interactive storytelling method. And you unlock some other cards like along the way. You unlock a Jeter card that you can use, and a Paul O'Neill card, and a fucking Chili Davis card, which I never thought I'd be excited. But like, it's fucking Chili Davis. It's great.
That kind of stuff is really cool. I feel like there should be more of that, following an individual player's career and then have you do their important moments. Like, I don't know much about F1 racing, but I know the name, I don't know how to pronounce it, Ayrton Senna. I know he's a really important figure, and Horizon Chase Turbo did an entire DLC pack that was his career, and you had to play through his races. And in order to advance, you had to do the things in his races that he did. So, like, you have to do a race where, like, it doesn't matter if you win this race if you don't pass this guy, because that was the important part of the race that happened in real life. So you have to do, like, they tell you the story. It doesn't play out quite as cinematically as it sounds like what you're talking about with the show, but, like, they'll tell you the story of what the race was about, why it was important, and then you do the race, and you have to do it the way Senna did it. I thought was really, really fun.
That's so cool.
I feel like I'd love to see more of that kind of stuff in sports, because there are a lot of, who doesn't love a good inspirational sports movie, right?
No, of course.
So like, there's a lot of great
so
inspirational stuff. Exactly. There's so many great stories in sports, like playing through a legendary player's career. I think that's really fun. And that's a really fun idea.
Yeah. And they really like, for the issues that the show team has sometimes, when they do shit like this, man, they really fucking nail it. They really, really do. And I know this game caught a lot of flack when it was announced, because like, oh, you fucking doing a Derek Jeter story? Like, yeah, of course they are. Yankees are the most popular team on the planet. Like, I'm sorry you like the Diamondbacks. But fuck you. Like, it's okay. Maybe they'll get to a fucking Luis Gonzalez moment. I doubt it.
Look, I'm a Flyers fan. That doesn't mean I wouldn't play a Wayne Gretzky game. Like, come on.
Well, yeah. Like, there's just some really cool shit. And you're right. Like, there's just so many opportunities for that kind of thing. Like, give me the fucking mode in Madden where I just get to be Lawrence Taylor and go through all, like, his fucking legendary shit, and, a mini game of doing coke in the fucking locker room at halftime. Fucking awesome.
Yeah, I suppose you do have to pick your players pretty carefully.
Yeah, you do.
Let's get the Babe Ruth game.
Well, but even with Babe Ruth, like, you could ignore a lot of shit, but how cool would that be to do the call your shot moment. You know, the legendary,
God, right?
Like, you've got to do the call your shot moment. And there's just all this cool stuff. You know, there's so many different players with different stories that you could go through. And like, what's cool is that Derek Jeter is still with us. You know, like, he can sit down and they can do these interviews, and he can talk about those moments. But for the Negro League storyline stuff that's in there, none of those players are around anymore. At least I think very, very few of them anyway. I could be off, but it just from a timing standpoint,
right.
Most of them are gone or are just too old to present a product that is worth watching. You know what I mean?
Right.
Not to be insensitive about it, but there comes a certain point where you can't remember, you can't talk about, you're not articulate enough because you're just too fucking old. Shit happens. Father Time is undefeated, right? Always wins.
Yeah, I mean, you can still run for president, but, you know, making...
you can still be president of the country and have the nuclear football, as they say.
Making an amusing documentary. Hell no.
No, certainly.
As you're talking about this, I'm thinking about playing through the Gold Master series, but like applying that to a sports figure. So like,
yeah.
and
like
the
doing
proper
that Wayne
interactive
Gretzky
timeline documentary, like, but have an interactive documentary instead of just a regular old documentary. Like,
that'd be so fucking cool.
Yeah, that would be really wild.
Play through like Joe Montana's career or Wayne Gretzky or fucking Michael Jordan's career. You know,
seriously.
Like, there's just
Michael Jordan Chaos in the Windy City is not the documentary that we wanted.
No, but it is the documentary we deserved, I feel. But no. So anyway, as I was saying, the director of the Negro League Museum is the one who sits down for the interviews, and this guy is a wealth of knowledge and a good storyteller. And he's the one who's talking about Tony Stone and Hank Aaron and fucking Satchel Paige and shit. You know, so it's really fucking cool. Like, I really, really enjoy it. And for a game that I love so much, about a game that I love so much, it just makes me very, very happy to see these things be in there. And there's a little tag at the end of, you know, more coming soon. And I don't know when it's coming soon, but like, give me some more of this shit. I love it. It's great.
Standing.
Yeah, it really is.
All right.
And
then I guess.
What else?
Oh, you got more? Got more?
No,
bring it on. Keep talking.
The only other thing we did watch the first two episodes of X-Men 97, and I like it as much as I liked it 20 years ago, which is to say, it's fine.
Yeah, I think it's great.
I liked the second episode, the Trial of Magneto episode, way more than I liked the first one. But those are the only two we've watched. And there's only 3 out, right? Or there might be 4 as of today.
There's 4 now. The Jubilee one that's all video gamey.
Okay.
Which is neat. They go to... It's a Mojo episode.
Nice. Is Longshot in it? Because if Longshot's in it, it might be my favorite show of all time.
Well, Longshot was in a couple episodes of the original series when they went up against Mojo.
Nah.
But no, Longshot's not in this one. But it's a lot of references to the Sega Genesis game and the arcade game. And
that's cool.
They come right up against actually having Magneto say the lines, but he doesn't actually say them. It's a huge missed opportunity. Sucks. He doesn't say, I am master of magnet, and he doesn't say, welcome to die. Like, come on. You were right there.
To die.
We're so close.
Yeah. All right.
What are you going to do?
Not much.
All right. Well, then we are going to move on to our next segment, which is What's New at Stone Age Gamer. What is happening at the name of this podcast? What's going on? That was a
Stone Age Gamer transition.
World. I'm nothing but smooth. We'll figure this out. I'll stop stuttering over it one of these days. It's a new segment. We've only been doing it for like 2 weeks now, but here we are.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
This weekend, as we're recording, Andy and a couple other folks have a table set up at Pinbrew Fest, which is a pinball festival in Ohio. Now, granted, this was a week ago, so there's nothing you can do about it now, but it's fun to say that we set up a table at Pinbrew Fest, and it was cool. As of right now, we are currently expecting a restock on X stations soon. We've been struggling with our distributor to keep them in stock, but it's been a thing. It's happening. They sent more of them out, so we will be restocked on X stations by the time you hear this, and hopefully the supply will continue to roll on in. We are also finally, after years of no longer having access to sell them, we should theoretically be finally getting Power-Based Minis and Power-Based Mini FMs
nice.
back at Stone Age Gamer, which I'm very excited about. These are from Power-Based converters, aftermarket Power-Based converters, which means play Sega Master System cartridges on your Sega Genesis. And the Power-Based Mini FM also incorporates the FM quality sound that certain Master System games had. They're neat devices. I'm glad to have them back. Another product that we have not been able to carry for a number of years is theoretically coming back soon, which is the Sega CD backup RAM carts.
Cool.
There is some issue with them, with the person we're getting them from, that they're trying to work through. So hopefully in the next couple of months, we will have Sega CD backup RAM carts back in stock. And speaking of back in stock, we had a huge plush restock this week. So if you're looking for video game related plushes, we should have a whole bunch of them on the site, as well as we just added a bunch of pre-owned flash carts in our inventories. We do have a flash cart trade-in program, if you are unaware, and it's all good times. And a bunch of the ones that we had gotten traded in have just been put up, including some Super HD System 3s, some Turbo EverDrives, and more. And that's pretty much what's been going on at SAG this week. Been fun.
Yeah, buy shit.
Yeah, do it.
Ryan needs a new yacht. He's only got the one, and it's kind of small. It's
well,
like what,
that,
20-footer?
Something like that. It's like it's Bush League, you know.
It really is. It's like, come on.
Look at this, guys. You look at the yachts that our competition are floating around in, and you think, right, come on, you got to represent us better than that.
Well, I know. He shows up to the yacht club in the little fucking shorty shorts with the white shoes, and all the other yacht owners are just laughing. Like,
this chucklehead. Starter yacht. Come on.
Fucking secondhand starter yacht having motherfucker. You don't even have a sweater tied around your shoulders, you prick.
Well, I don't think there's any better time than now to transition over to Week Old News. Welcome to Week Old News, where we talk about all the news that was new a week ago. See, that was better, right? That was better.
That was so much better. Like,
that wasn't even written down. That wasn't scripted. No, that was right off the top.
You better write that shit down. The fact that you called it out too of being better also makes it so much better.
Well, I'm very professional. We know this, Dan. It's a scientific fact. I am very professional. What the fuck did I say?
See, I didn't fuck it up.
I've already forgotten what I said. What was it? All the news that was new a week ago?
Something like that. I don't know. It was pretty good.
I'll go back and
listen to the tapes. Check the drops.
If only someone was recording this.
Oh, God damn it. Test. 33.
All right. First up, we have from Go Nintendo. Koji Kondo lent his voice to Super Mario Bros. Wonder's most unique badge. If I remember correctly, this is a badge that I used for like 4 seconds and then turned off because I didn't get it. It's just like a badge you earn for 100% completing the game that changes a bunch of sound effects, and they changes the sound effects to like voice, like someone saying the words of like bounce and boing and things like that. And apparently,
that's kind of great.
We just found out
just straight onomatopoeia.
Exactly, and we just found out at GDC that the voice was none other than Koji Kondo's.
That's pretty cool.
He's the one who said all the things. So according to Go Nintendo, Mr. Kondo had an idea for a live-action Mario with human proportions that would run through levels and hum the background music. Turns out this idea proved too strange and difficult to implement, which led to it being scrapped, but a portion of the idea lives on in Kondo's sound-off badge performance.
That is outstanding. Love that.
Live-action Mario game where he's humming the music through the background level sounds horrifying, and I kind of want it to happen.
Sounds like fucking Gronk from Emperor's New Groove.
Yes.
You humming your own theme song? That movie's so underappreciated.
That movie is so underrated. It's so good.
It's one of the best Disney movies.
All right, next up from Push Square, Game Pass woes for indie devs as Microsoft and Epic funding reportedly drying up. This was an interesting read, because if you remember a couple of years ago, with the Epic Game Store was just like cutting sweetheart deals left and right, and apparently all this stuff like Game Pass is the funds for them are just not the checkbook isn't balancing, and it's starting to hurt indie developers that were kind of relying on these things to get their games into these services. It's just not really working out for everybody anymore, which is yet another sign that portions of this industry might just be heading towards a pretty nasty crash. I can't say this is terribly surprising. I was just, what was it? I was just this morning, I was listening to, because I tend to not actually watch it, but I was listening to this week's episode of Last Week Tonight, the John Oliver show, and he was doing it on the food delivery services. And apparently, like, Grubhub and whatnot, and Uber Eats, they're not profitable.
I can't imagine how they would be.
They spent all this money getting to this point, but none of them have actually turned a profit yet, which is like, this is so weird that this is the way so many businesses work. They get to this point where, like, everybody starts doing a thing, and then they start buying all of each other out, and then, like, it's just like, it's the whole fuck around find out thing. Like, and we're currently at the tipping point between the fuck around and find out phase of that. And that's what it seems like is happening with all this Game Pass stuff right now, too. It's, let's see, this article says it's an unfortunate, if not surprising situation. Looking at Game Pass, it's always pushed for day one releases, and Microsoft's bottomless coffers have bankrolled countless small titles to ensure they're part of the package. However, as subscriber numbers plateau and growth slows, we're not surprised Phil is having to be a little more conservative here. So it's something to look out for. I mean, obviously, saying the funds aren't there is ridiculous when talking about these multi-trillion-dollar corporations. Like, you can afford anything you fucking want if you want to, but it's still one of those. It didn't really feel good. It's not a feel good story.
Yeah, well, and it like you said, it's just really not all that surprising. Like,
no.
These companies didn't get to be fucking disgusting billionaire trillion-dollar companies by, like, giving money away.
No.
Yeah, like, that's not a thing that they did. You know, they want the money.
I want all of it.
Yeah. Also, fuck Grubhub and all of those other, like, fucking hate that shit. I hate it.
Next up, again from Push Square, Jim Ryan leaves PlayStation as PS5 set to become its, quote, most successful console ever. This strikes me as weird, because on one hand, I understand the metric that he's using. Like, it's selling a pretty goddamn decent number of units.
It is,
and it's making them a pretty decent amount of money. But at the same time, the games themselves haven't been super exciting. This generation in general hasn't been, like, super exciting.
I mean, there's been some really, really incredible shit so far. Like, there really honestly has. Like, God of War Ragnarok. Incredible fucking game. Spider-Man 2. One of the best games I've ever played. Just out of control good. But, you know, there's
two.
There's
those are the only two I could think of.
Yeah,
those are the only two I could think of that were like generation defining, and even them, both of those games could have been done on PlayStation 4.
Well, yeah, that's kind of where I was heading with it, of like with both Sony and Microsoft, there has been nothing on either console that feels like it couldn't have been done elsewhere.
Yeah.
You know, I know that there's some shit that even the PS4 Pro simply couldn't handle. Like, I get that.
And
it's hard.
Current form, sure.
Yeah.
But
it's hard
would not
because
have been that difficult to pare it down.
Because the graphical fidelity, like, there is a huge jump in a lot of shit, but also at the same time, like, there's very few games that you turn on the PS4 Pro and you boot up Ghost of Tsushima and it's like, man, that looks like fucking shit. Like, that's just not the case. You know, it's just not the case. So yeah, I don't know. There just really hasn't been that next generation, like, this is the thing that pushed it forward. And I don't know that we're ever going to see that. You know, like, they're talking about the rumors of the PS5 Pro. Why? For what?
Exactly. Why? You haven't mastered what you have yet. And this is something that really irks me about a lot of modern developers. And, like, you see it. It's really, really obvious on the Switch in particular, where it's like, you look at Tears of the Kingdom, and then you look at, I don't know, another modern AAA game, and the file sizes are unfathomably different.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so
Final Fantasy VII Part 2 is 180 gigabytes to download, and Breath of the Wild is on a cart.
Breath of the Wild is like 14 gigs or something. Like,
yeah.
And it's like, you haven't mastered what you have yet. Like, could you imagine if most companies put the amount of effort into optimization that Nintendo did, how much better things would be? But it's always this jump, like, okay, well, we just need more power. We need more power. We need more power. Instead of like, well, how do we use what we have better? And that was something that Kojima was always great at, right? You look at fucking Metal Gear Solid 2, as early as that was in the PS2's life, that is still one of the best looking games on that platform.
Yep.
And it all came down to understanding what the system can do and then utilizing its strengths instead of just like, fuck it, make it bigger, more memory, more. Yeah. Just give us more power. And then
what's there.
Yeah, like, just necessity is the mother of invention. Work under those tool sets instead of like, well, I have unlimited. Let's just make it unlimited. And then we wind up with situations where games are just freaking humongous and they don't need to be. And
they still don't. And they still need a day one patch.
They still need a day one patch, yeah. And you need to have the hard drive space to download all this stuff. Like, it's massive files. And like, what are you going to do with a Pro other than making it run faster, which you could do if you were optimizing your shit better? And I don't know game programming. I really don't. I know this is very armchair, old man yells at cloud. But at the same time, it's like, I feel like I've seen enough examples of like, if you're smart about your shit, it can do really amazing things.
Yeah.
For within a lot less space. And then you look at like, well, here's the Mortal Kombat game download file size, and you want all the DLC. Like, good fucking luck. Like, no.
You don't have a fucking memory card in there big enough for that shit. Neither do I. Now, the most impressive thing that I've seen so far, the thing that where it was like, this is the next generation, is the Spider-Man 2 map. Like, I go to a section on the map, and I click a section, and I instantly swing into that section. Like, it pans down into the city, and I am swinging through the city. Whereas in the first Spider-Man on PlayStation 4, you could fast travel, but you rode a subway while it loaded the other section. You know, this is instantaneous. So, like, that's cool, but that's not really, like, pushing the boundaries of the next generation of technology, you know? I don't know. Anyway.
Continuing with Jim Ryan, IGN reports PlayStation boss Jim Ryan reveals PS2 actually sold 160 million units worldwide, right before piecing out. In a move that I
what was the original number?
It was one... I'm trying to find where it was... People have been operating off of the 150 million number for a while now. I think it's 155.1 million was the last official report. If I'm reading this right, and that's the number that people are looking at. Like, wow, the Switch might actually beat that, like, or at least get close to it, and that's crazy, right? Because I think the Switch only has to beat the original DS and PS2 now. I think those are the only two systems that it has yet to beat. And the system hasn't even been through a price drop yet. So almost as if to say, like, oh, the Nintendo might take our record for the best-selling system of all time. Well, I'm leaving. Nobody can get me in trouble for this. We sold 160 million. Prove we didn't. Bye.
Prove it. Prove it, you fuckers. Go back 30 years.
Which isn't to say, looking at it, it's not completely unreasonable, because the PS2 was technically still being shipped for another 2 years after their last reported number. So it's possible it sold another couple million units. Possible?
But
why? The DS is sitting at 154.02 million sold, and the Switch is currently at 139.36. So I don't know. It just seems...
If they release like a Switch 2 next year, do they hit that number? Do they overtake it? I don't think so, right?
They do if they drop the price.
You think?
If they...
Still?
I do. Because, you know, not everyone... If they keep things up the way, like, PlayStation 2 continued to sell for at least a year or two after the PS3 was on the market, not in insane numbers, but it's still... The Switch has an incredible library of lots of readily available shit, and if they drop the price to make it more affordable, like, here's the Switch 2, and it's $350 or $400 or whatever it's going to be, or even $300 like the Switch currently is, and say, well, here's the Switch at $99 or something. Like, yeah, I think they could move it if they're aggressive with it.
Maybe.
Sure.
I don't know.
Maybe. It's possible.
I don't know that it matters.
I don't know that it matters either. Like, it's insanely successful. It just... What a dick. Like, I don't know. Maybe it did. Maybe he's rounding up. Maybe he's just saying shit because he's Jim Ryan. But
yeah.
He's not in charge of PlayStation anymore, and we're all better off.
Speaking of PlayStation, one thing, I just don't know if this made your list or not. I don't think it did. The one game when we did our preview of, like, hey, these are the games we're excited about. One of the ones that I was really excited about, they showed off at, what was it? The Game Awards? I think it was the first fucking time they showed off that Tales of Kenzera Zao, the Metroidvania that looks like set in, like, it looked almost like a Black Panther game. At first, it was this looks like fucking Wakanda and shit. That is going to be a day one release on the PlayStation Plus on April 23rd. So we were just talking about, like, those day one releases. PlayStation really doesn't do that very often, but they are doing it with this one, and that's pretty cool because this game looks really incredible, and I hope a lot of people play it, and I hope it's great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Sticking with PlayStation, Retro RGB is reporting the PlayStation 2 5000X replacement shells are coming. Yoei, the creator of the Retro is Cool replacement console shells, has just opened pre-orders on PlayStation 2 versions So there's a bunch of cool replacement PS2 shells. It's only currently fully compatible with the 5000X and 5500X models, but there are future models apparently planned for the 3XXXX whatever models.
Yeah, sure.
We carry a bunch of their stuff. The Retro is Cool shells at Stone Age Gamer, so I assume that we will be getting these once they become available to us. Looks like the colors they have currently are solid white, solid black, clear, transparent red, and transparent purple, and they all seem to have vertical stands as well.
Cool.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. The kits are gonna wow, the kits come with a bunch of pieces. Upper shell, bottom shell, IR receiver windows, disc tray panel, 2 memory card slot doors, rear power and fan panel, expansion bay panel, 8 foot pads on upper and bottom shells, same color as the console shells, 4 plastic pads on the bottom shell, same color as the console shell, and vertical stand, same color as the console shell, sold separately. Okay, so the vertical stands will be sold separately. And there you go. Thanks, Bob from Retro RGB, for reporting about those. Those are super cool looking. What's next? I love this one. This might be... No, it's not my favorite. This is my second favorite article of the week. IGN reports Tekken 8 director responds to the many fans asking
this is my favorite
Waffle
thing.
House level.
No, this is my favorite story of the week. Tiff looked over at me as because this made it to her socials, as the kids say, and she was like, "All right, if there's a Waffle House level in Tekken 8, we have to get it." And I was like,
I'll fucking buy it.
100% sure. Yes, 100%. I could put a Bullet Club shirt on a Tekken character and fight in front of a Waffle House. Are you fucking kidding me? God damn it. I'm excited.
I just love that, because of course Katsuhiro Harada has no frame of reference for why the fuck Waffle House should be in Tekken.
Did you see his original tweet?
Okay, I will only ask once about this request. Why do some communities send me requests for Waffle House? Please be sure to explain the basis for the request, including the original story, history, and background. I look forward to an explanation from someone who knows more.
What a fucking awesome tweet.
I just love it.
Sometimes Twitter is not the fucking worst thing on the planet.
I just love that there's enough people asking him to put a Waffle House level in Tekken that he took to Twitter to ask.
Oh my god, I want it so bad.
It would be the funniest thing.
That really does fall under like shit I didn't know I needed. Fucking Eddie Gordo and somebody.
Would it be in the parking lot outside of a Waffle House, or inside the Waffle House?
No, you'd have to have
like
a
the parking lot outside, so you can see the actual building. You know,
hyper realistic Waffle House in the background as you're fucking fighting, as you're Kuma fighting Robo Paul.
And of course,
in a robot.
In the Waffle House, there has to be a separate fight breaking out as well, like in the background.
Oh yeah, like Yoshimitsu is fucking fighting Heihachi in the Waffle House.
Not even Tekken characters. Yoshimitsu's fighting the dude behind the counter.
The fucking chef, because his waffles were cold.
Amazing.
Yeah, this is the best idea ever. Like, oh my god, I want it so fucking bad. I want it so bad.
Oh, speaking of things that I want, Time Extension reports the NES Slot Master is an open source replacement for the 72-pin cartridge slot. Now, there has been a couple of different things out in the world to solve the 72-pin connector problem with the NES, just being so darn faulty. Blinking Light Win has been kind of like the standard for a number of years, but also for the last, like, at least 2 to 3 years, it's been near impossible to get. We've actually talked to them a handful of times about carrying it, and they're like, we just don't have them to sell. We're trying to source the parts, and it's just not working out. But this one is there was also another one that I learned about in this article that they call out called the Nintendo Drawer, which is interesting.
I've never heard of that one.
Yeah, I hadn't heard of that one either. But this one actually I saw popped up in Stone Age Gamer's Twitter feed. This is from Merlin Shaw on Twitter. Was posted. I'm very pleased to announce the NES Slotmaster 72 pin drop in replacement. This has been in the works for almost a year, but absolutely worth it. It's open sourced, all files to build this yourself, minimal components. This can be built for less than $20.
That's pretty awesome.
I believe this tweet was then responded to by Laserbear Industries, saying that they're going to be they're going to be making these to sell, and they're going to be Greg from Laserbear Industries. We are getting the parts ordered in bulk. We'll be doing DIY kits at $20 for the first round, ready to install kits at $30. Added some protection for the PCB. Don't want fingers getting bloodied by all those sharp pins. Should have pre-orders sometime early next week. We carry Laserbear products. We also kind of do 3D printing ourselves too. So I wonder if we'll be getting some from Laserbear, if we'll be making our own to sell on our site. But this does seem like I haven't talked to anybody yet about it because everybody's at the Pin Brew Fest this weekend, so there's not really too many people to talk to about it. But this seems like the kind of thing that we should absolutely be carrying at the store, especially considering how much we've wanted to get our hands on Blinking Light Win, because there's nothing quite like having a front-loading NES that actually, reads your fucking games.
Yeah.
Gotta love it.
What a novel concept.
It was a brilliant looking design, but and it was fun, putting the cartridges down and the clicky springy noise. But
at the
end of the day,
sounded great.
That shit was not built to last.
No, does not work.
But something with unlimited appeal. Go Nintendo reports PO'd Definitive Edition announced for Switch. Oh my god, I've never played this game, but I've always wanted to. Night Dive Studios. The company was recently acquired by Atari. They did the Turok remasters and stuff. These guys know what they're doing in terms of remastering 90s 3D games. And of all the games, PO'd just a super violent game about a chef murdering aliens, I think. I've always wanted to play this game, and I never got around to it. This trailer just looks outstanding. Because when they do these games, they do them they really do them justice as far as maintaining their original look. And this trailer is super funny. It dropped on April Fool's Day. It's like an AI was asked to make a first-person shooter game about a fever dream. It's one of the pull quotes in the trailer. It's freaking wild. This looks right up my alley on just the degree of sheer unadulterated
nonsense.
Stupid.
Yeah.
Just
we love nonsense.
A lunatic chef blasting aliens with frying pans and other just wild alien weapons. This game looks nuts. So good job. Good job, Night Dive. This was a great thing, and a great thing to announce on April Fool's. Yes, April Fool's Day happened. There was a handful of funny things. I'm not going to break them all down.
No.
This next story, though, just gonna stay calm. Go Nintendo reports Hollow Knight Silksong listing spotted on the Xbox Store.
Yeah.
This happened on April Fool's, but it was not an April Fool's joke. It was confirmed that this is a new listing. I also believe the game has been rated by the ESRB now.
I don't give a shit. I don't fucking care. It's not happening.
I'm just saying there was theoretical movement in the world of Silksong. I refuse to get any hopes up at all. This
nope.
I'm reading the Go Nintendo article. This seems to have been noticed by Wario64. Wonderful Twitter account if you don't follow Wario64, constantly posting good deals and bits of information. Yeah. Okay.
No, fuck. I don't care. No. It's not happening. Is what I've
tiddlywinks
myself.
With our hearts.
That's right.
I'm going to save this one for last. I'm going to save that one for last. Okay. This next story here also comes from Retro RGB. Bob, let the world know that Tempest 3000 for Nuon is getting an official licensed reissue. Which sent me down a rabbit hole of, what the fuck's a Nuon?
I've seen
that
thought.
name around, and I never actually knew what that thing was.
No.
Now I do.
I know a fair amount of shit. Like, I consider myself to be, relatively well-versed in this fucking nonsense. And I saw that thing, and I was like, man, I'm not trying to learn about some new shit. Fuck, I don't need to know.
I started looking at this, and I was like, oh, great, now I want one. I'm not going to get one.
And that is the difference between you and me.
They're not affordable, especially the controllers, which look fucking hideous. The controllers look terrible for this Nuon thing. It's like a DVD player that also plays video games, and it's...
Yeah, fuck all that.
Jeez. But Tempest 3000 was only on Nuon, which I don't think I ever knew that. And, I mean, I knew it from playing through the Jeff Minter story.
Yeah.
I was like, well, why isn't Tempest 3000 on there? Oh, because they don't have a fucking Nuon emulator.
Because who has a fucking Nuon emulator?
I'm shocked. After everything they did in Atari 50, I'm shocked that they didn't take the time to come up with their own unique Nuon emulator and be like, no, we're making this happen. We are making this happen. We're going to spend way too much money making it happen. But bless our hearts, we'll make Tempest 3000 available to the masses. I cannot believe Songbird Productions have just opened pre-orders on an official repressing of Tempest 3000 for the Nuon. This is a complete in-box reissue, fully licensed from Atari, and is functionally identical to the original.
That's fucking nuts. You want to talk about a niche product release.
Oh my,
there you
go. Love to see it. You love to see it. Fucking masterpiece. Push Square. Oh boy. Yeah, I'm definitely doing the other one last, because this one's just infuriating of what it has inspired. Random, Push Square is posting Lara Croft tops Mario as the most iconic video game character of all time, apparently. I love the way this article is written. At the top of it, it says, well, BAFTA was clearly looking for headlines within this news, and boy has it got them. The British Academy of Film and Television Arts recently hosted a poll asking people to vote for the most iconic video game character of all time, and the results are, to be frank, shockingly inept. Granted, this was a poll of around 4,000 people, which is not a lot of people for a poll of this type, and you can clearly tell how old these people are because of the answers. Perhaps during the PlayStation 1 era, you could definitely make an argument that Lara Croft would be the most iconic video game character at that period in time, where she was at the absolute height of her popularity as a character, because hey, video games and boobs, that's a great combination.
That is a great two great tastes that taste great together.
But what really, really tanks this list for me is you've got number 1, Lara Croft, number 2, Mario, which I would argue that if just the very definition of iconic video game character, it kind of has to be Mario at this point. It just has to be. I can't think of a single metric where it doesn't just land on Mario, whether you like the character or not. It's just, he's synonymous with video games. But number 3... I mean,
you're probably right, but...
Number 3 is Agent 47.
Which is just... I don't like the Hitman games very much. I know a lot of people do. That is inaccurate information.
It is patently false that Agent 47 is the third most iconic video game character of all time.
No. It just off the top of my head, Master Chief would be... Master Chief has more of a legitimate claim to the number 1 spot than Agent 47 has to the number 3 spot.
I would concur. We've got number 4 is Sonic the Hedgehog. Number 5 is Sackboy. Number 6 is Pac-Man. Nope. So yes, Sackboy is more iconic to video games than fuck-mothering Pac-Man.
Nope.
No.
Just not true. That's just... And this is why, boys and girls, when you watch the news and they're like, well, you better fucking worry because the polls say, don't listen to them. I mean, be worried, but not because of the polls. Yeah. The polls are fucking dumb.
As the article points out, quote, further down the list, there's some serious recency bias at play. Shadowheart and Astarion, both party members from Baldur's Gate 3, are at the number 10 and 17 spots, respectively.
That's real dumb.
Kazuma Kiryu made it to 18th, though, which just goes to show how popular the Like a Dragon series has gotten over the last few years in the West. An unthinkable feat just a couple of generations ago. Exactly.
Didn't even know who that was.
This is knucking futz, but what really cheeses me off is the discourse I've seen surrounding it of people 100% sure that Lara Croft is in fact the most important video game character ever. I've seen it posited. I've seen it stated as absolute fact that no video game character had as much cultural impact as Lara Croft before Lara Croft during the PlayStation era. No other video game character had gotten a movie before Lara Croft.
Also not true.
Just patently false. Like, this is just 100% inaccurate. This is somebody who clearly didn't live through. Pac-Man Fever was fucking like...
Yeah, like
it was a Billboard rated song, for crying out. Like,
yeah,
they're cartoons, they're SpaghettiOs. Like, I guess I can understand where you're coming from to an extent. That, like, Lara Croft, boobs, is on the cover of a magazine. Well, like, okay, that's neat, but
yeah, that's the shitty thing about it is that there is a conversation to be had around whether or not Lara Croft is the most iconic video game character of all time. There is a legitimate conversation that can be had around there.
I would say not is.
It still has to be had in good faith.
It does. You have to look at the entirety of what happened before Lara Croft and what's happened since. Lara Croft is nowhere near as popular a character as she was back in the 90s. Not by the longest of long shots.
If those
Tomb Raider remasters just came out, and I'm sure they're performing admirably, but if you think they're performing even a fucking fraction of as much as the Crash Bandicoot ones did, you're out of your mind.
I would doubt it, for sure. I would imagine that if you showed a bunch of people random video game characters, I would imagine that, like, if you walked up to somebody on the street and you had a picture, 3 pictures, one of Mario, one of Pac-Man, and one of Lara Croft, I would imagine more people would be able to say Mario and Pac-Man. And then a lot of the other responses would be, yeah, I've seen that one.
Mm-hmm. Tomb Raider.
Yeah, Tomb Raider. Yeah, that's weird. That's a weird thing.
Yeah.
Agent 47. That's
the one that makes my head spin the most.
And the Baldur's Gate 3 shit, like, no. I'm sorry.
So you just went to a college campus and asked 4,000 people. Like,
yeah, that's weird.
Iconic? Like, do you know what that word means? Because I don't think you do.
No. Words have meaning, kids. That's odd.
Anyway, the last story, the most important story, already Game of the Year, without question. Mm-hmm. Charming platforming series Dadish goes 3D on Switch later this month. Dadish 3D is coming out on April 23rd, 2024, and I died. It's this was after. Awesome. after I had started replaying Dadish. I was...
Yeah.
And you know what? Thomas K. Young has my business for life.
Yeah.
I bought it. What was I can't even remember the name of it. It's on my phone. It's a clever little cross between fucking Wordle and I don't know what else. Molcano. Awesome. I bought Super Faust games, and obviously Dadish is by far my favorite. And this one's going to be $14.99. So it's considerably more expensive than previous Dadish games, probably because it's a 3D game. There's a lot more to it. The visuals are very, I want to say, HD PS1.
Right? Yeah, that was the vibe I got. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely not N64, which makes me happy because I don't like N64 graphics. So when games are like, hey, it's a throwback to the 3D N64 platformers, I'm like, But this one just has that jagged PS1 nature to it, which makes me so much happier. I like 2D platformers more than 3D platformers. Clearly, not as much as you. I mean, the number one fan of 3D platformers right here. But this trailer just makes me so happy.
I'm scouring for a 3D platformer that starts with N.
Clearly. Oh God, I did not think of an M game. I'm gonna have to do that during the break.
Yeah, Kris.
It just looks so good. It looks like Dadish in 3D. It animates really great. Burger Griller's in there, and Dadish says, "What are you doing here?" And he responds, "Crimes mostly." Yes,
that's great.
Fucking love the writing in this series so much. I'm so excited. It's not that far off. April 23rd is really not that far away.
It's really
and I get a brand new Dadish game in 3D. It's so exciting. I can't wait to try it. I can't wait for new Dadish kid responses. I'm so happy, Dan. I'm so happy. I'm so excited.
That's pretty awesome.
And there you go. That's week old news. And that is the top half of our show. Half.
Yeah.
We're going to take ourselves a break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about Dan's choice for the Alphabet Super Series Life Force for the Nintendo Entertainment System. You're listening to the Stone Age Gamer podcast from Geekade.com. Stick around.
We are Safe at Home, the leading dog rescue in the heart of New Jersey. Are you searching for a loyal companion, a dog that will bring love and joy to your home? Look no further than Safe at Home. At Safe at Home, we believe in giving every dog a second chance. We rescue, rehabilitate, and find loving forever homes for dogs in need, right here in the Garden State. Our dogs are ready to make a lasting impact on your life. Each one has a unique story, a wagging tail, and an incredible capacity for love. When you adopt from Safe at Home, you're not just gaining a pet, you're becoming a part of our family. Our dedicated team ensures a seamless adoption process, providing ongoing support and guidance. With New Jersey's beautiful parks, beaches, and trails, you and your new furry friend will have endless opportunities for adventures and cherished memories. Safe at Home relies on the support of compassionate individuals like you. Your donations and volunteer work enable us to continue saving lives and finding forever homes for these amazing dogs. Join us in creating a safer, happier community for dogs in New Jersey. Together we can make a difference and give every dog the chance to feel safe at home. Visit our website or call us now to learn about how you can be a part of the Safe at Home mission. Safe at Home, because every dog deserves to be loved and protected. www.safeathomerescue.org.
Hi everyone, Kris here. Podcast listening is free, but podcast creation is not. That's why the Geekade Patreon exists. In an effort to help us pay the bills, we've got a Patreon page set up where you can gain access to our monthly podcast topic schedule, get early access to many of our shows, and more. If you'd like to help support Geekade and keep these shows running week after week, head over to the Geekade Patreon page, linked in the show notes of this very podcast. Okay, we are back and better than ever. Dan, this was your pick for the Alphabet Super Series. For those who are new around these parts, the Alphabet Super Series is where Dan and I take turns once a month choosing a game that starts with the next letter of the alphabet in alphabetical order. And Dan chose for the letter L, Life Force for NES. Dan, tell us a little bit about this game and why you chose it.
Mainly because we haven't done very many shmups, right? Which I know is not everybody's favorite way to describe these, but these scrolling shooters and whatnot. We just really haven't done a lot of these, and all the different things that we've come up with and ways to talk about video games. These sorts of games just really don't come up that much. And this is one that I always really liked as a kid. And I remembered being like, this game was pretty hard. But as I've gotten older, apparently the game has gotten much, much harder. This game is really fucking hard.
It's tough as nails. And I'm not going to say that it's not entirely unhateful about it.
No.
Sometimes it's just pretty rude about it.
Yeah. Which is a shame, because the other reason that I picked this game is because the bosses in this game are absurd. They're just the most ridiculous shit. And I love that about them.
The bosses are nuts.
What kind of, what sort of experience did you have with this? Is this something you played as a kid?
A little bit. I think my sister and I rented this once, or borrowed it from a friend once. It's, this is Konami 2-player simultaneous action. Which,
yeah.
You gotta love it when that kind of stuff happens.
Yeah.
We wound up playing Stinger a lot more than this one. I think it's just we had more access to that game in particular, but I definitely played this a little bit when I was younger, but I never finished it. Today, when I was playing it earlier, I was able to finish it more or less no problem, but because of the Contra code, the Konami code, I threw that in for the 30 lives, and the game became a lot more manageable.
Yeah, you definitely I am not the type of person that can get through this. You can watch YouTube playthroughs of no hit, no miss, fucking playthroughs of Life Force, and that is just not me.
Right. This seems like the kind of game that wouldn't be that hard to memorize with enough time, but we're too old for that shit.
Well, and that's what I was just going to say. This game really does harken back to the memorization style of video games. One of the things I always really liked about it, though, was the difference between vertical and horizontal scrolling. And the game would change between those two perspectives. I just always thought that was really, really cool.
And Stinger did that too, which was also Konami. Yeah. Which is I'm also a big fan of that. I think that's super great. The swapping between vertical and horizontal, I thought was super impressive when I saw it in Stinger, and seeing this game do it, because I haven't played this one since I was a kid. I kind of forgot that this did that, and once I got to the next level and it did that, I was like, oh right, this is awesome. Good stuff.
Yeah, it is a really, really good game. It's really hard. You really do have to memorize shit. You really have to figure out what works for you as far as the power-ups and whatnot are concerned, because you get to kind of pick and choose how you want to power up your ship. And there's a point where you can make your ship way too fast.
Oh yeah,
it's just way too fast. It's way too fast. I'm flying all over the fucking screen. I can't control it. All right, well, don't do that next time. Power up the laser, or maybe you like the pulse beam a little bit better, and getting the different option things out there where you have multiple things shooting, lasers and missiles and all of this stuff. And the game really doesn't suffer from too much slowdown, which is nice. There are bits of it, sure.
Of course, but this is Konami we're talking about. They knew what they were doing.
They really, really did. There are, as I found out, playing through this and just looking stuff up online, there are a ton of different versions, and I played I played the arcade one before, and that one I think is a little easier than the NES one.
Yeah, definitely, because it's less complex. It's really interesting because Konami really went all in on adapting this game to NES. So you have the more Gradius style. You get the power-ups, and it cycles through on the bottom, and you get to choose which power-ups you get, whereas the arcade one is just straightforward. You get these power-ups. You pick them up, and that's the power-up you have.
Yeah.
It's also very talkative, which is kind of funny. Like, there's this
that's
voice
kind of wild
chatting at you the whole time, like everything you pick up, and like warning you about what's coming, whereas like there are certain things that happen in the NES game. I'm thinking about the flaming level with the fire wheels. They just kind of jump out at you like, what?
I hate that level so much.
I get that there is some sort of visual cue on when those things are coming, but like, fuck off.
Slight.
I can't see that.
Slight visual clue.
Yeah, you really got to be looking for it, and when you're doing a bunch of other stuff too, it's not the easiest thing to spot.
No.
But just from a technical standpoint, looking at this game, looking at what these wizards pulled off, these absolute maniacs with the background tiles forming the different bosses and everything, like they pulled out all the stops to make this game such a visual showpiece. When they adapted this from arcade to NES, that they were able to, those flaming wheel things that would jump out at you, like the fire like arches, those should not look that good on NES, but
they look great.
Damn, they pull it off. They look unbelievable. Really impressive game.
Really, really solid. Really, really like it. I did play like literally as we were starting the show. I booted up the Japanese TurboGrafx 16 Salamander, right? Because this game is known as Salamander, or was known as Salamander for a while everywhere else, and it's certainly got its differences. What's weird about that one is that the screen, you can't see like with the NES, you see the entire screen top to bottom. With the TurboGrafx Salamander, you do not see the full screen top to bottom. Like as you fly up to the top of the screen, it scrolls up a little bit. You fly to the bottom, it scrolls down a little bit. The music is so much better in that one because it actually plays throughout the entire level. It doesn't start like 5-6 seconds into the level, but it just sounds a lot better, but still plays really well.
Wait, what are you talking about with the music?
I don't know. On my copy, it just maybe it's an emulated thing, but it takes a second to like kick in.
No, I don't recall that happening at all.
Or no, the sound takes a second to kick in and the music is playing, but the sound effects, something's weird at the beginning of the one I have. I don't know. Could be an emulated thing.
I'm pretty sure the music just kicks off straight away.
And it takes the sound a second to jump in. Maybe that's what it is.
I can remember Xevious did something like that. That was Namco, though, where like it starts off and it plays like this jingle and the sound effects are all quiet. Then once the jingle's over and the background music starts, you hear all the sound effects. But I don't remember that being the case with Life Force, but I could just be remembering it wrong, or it just didn't strike me as odd.
I don't know. The music is pretty good, though. Like what's there. It's not the most
great. I love it. I think the music's great in this one.
It's not the craziest soundtrack ever, but it's really good what's there. Yeah, I like this. I like this quite a bit. I'm happy I picked it.
Okay, I see what you're talking about. Yeah.
Okay,
there's like there's like an intro to the music that plays, and then once the intro's done playing, you start hearing the sound effects, which are all from Contra. They're all the same sound effects in Contra.
That's all right, though.
Yeah, no, that's a Konami thing. Konami had a very specific sound font that they worked in. That was really, really worked out well for their games, because Konami had such a just wonderful aesthetic all around on NES. So, like, this game does have a lot of cheap deaths. It's a game that really requires you to spend time memorizing it, because the first level, when like the walls are, the quote unquote walls, or the fleshy walls are closing in around you, like there are certain spots that there's no way you can tell ahead of time that specific thing is going to close entirely, because other areas haven't closed entirely. First. They've been like, all right, they've covered some of the wall, but you can dodge it. And then other ones are just like, no, never mind. This is closed entirely. Enjoy being dead. And there are spots later on in the game that do similar things where it's just like, well, I think it was in the last stage where like those veins will just like,
oh yeah,
and here's a bunch of veins on the screen. Just sorry, no warning. If you don't know this is there's nothing you can't do anything about it. You just have to, put the 30 lives code in and deal with it. Yeah, just get a straw and suck it up. But after playing, I beat the NES one, and then I went and booted up the arcade one, and it was really impressive. Not just like the music adapting the music to it, because I think the arcade game works similar with the music. That was a very Konami-ish thing to do, to have the music kind of kick in after an intro happens. Stinger did the same thing. But like they really did a very good job of adapting this game to NES. Like it has a little bit more content. Like some of the bosses, I think of like the first vertical stage boss. There's a bunch of stuff after it in the NES game, and there isn't in the arcade game. But of course, the NES doesn't have the really cool transition between the vertical stages and the horizontal stages. Yeah, that part is really dope. The ship just turns, and then all of a sudden you're in the next level. Like there's no transition or anything. That's really cool. But really, that's the way they adapted these stages to work on NES. The way that they made it work without the ability to have the voices telling you what was happening around you at all times. The way that they changed the weapon upgrade system, the way that they made even the missiles work, right? Because you have these, the missile power up is super useful, where you shoot these missiles that kind of work like, I think they work like the game Scramble, which was another really classic Konami arcade game. The missiles, they'll like shoot out of the side of your ship and they'll run along the walls, and they work surprisingly well visually speaking on the NES. Like they have them all flickering in and out with like almost transparency, but the number of things that are happening on screen at a time during this game are really impressive for an NES game, especially of this vintage. Like this is a really impressive game. It does the thing that NES games do with big bosses, where they just get rid of the background in order to make the boss exist, and that's fine. Which is
okay.
Master System did it too with stuff like Fantasy Zone. They would do the same thing where the screen would go away. Konami did it again with Stinger, which I just freaking love. Stinger. It's such a great game.
Maybe we'll get to Stinger with our S pick.
Perhaps we will. But yeah, I was really impressed with this overall. I mean, obviously the cheap deaths are one thing, but that was games of this era, right? That just happened a lot. I really liked the music. I remember being so impressed with the visuals in this game as a kid. Like my sister and I would see this in magazines and be like, "Oh my god, this looks ridiculous!"
It's just so nuts.
There's such cool art direction going on here with the whole like being inside a giant creature. With blood cells and veins and stuff, just like moving around. Really cool. It's such an interesting setting for a game like this. And I remember actually, because I don't think I ever beat this as a kid, so when I beat it today and I got to the salamander at the end, it's like, that's pretty underwhelming. The box art is so freaking cool. That salamander looks intimidating. That scary lizard looking thing is so cool looking. Then you get to him in the game, like, this is not the most impressive boss in this game by a long shot. Like the fire dragon was way cooler than this. Like what are we doing here? But it is a Gradius spin-off, and you've got the Moai heads towards the end of the game because you can't have a Gradius game without that going on. It just really struck all the right notes. I had a lot of fun playing this today.
Yeah, me too. Like as frustrating as it is, like you said, the cheap deaths and all. There's still like it's really fucking solid. It's a really solid game. Yeah,
stands the test of time. You love seeing shooters like this actually work well on NES. Like, because that was one of the things that the NES's competition tended to be a lot better with was scrolling shooters. Like Master System handled them very well, and then eventually TurboGrafx handled them extremely well. But they were able to pull off some cool stuff with NES with some technical trickery, and they sure pulled off a really impressive game here. Konami really just bringing it with all cylinders as they tended to do during the NES era.
Who knew? Who knew Konami had all of this skill?
There was a time, Dan. Long ago.
I know, that's kind of one of the other reasons that I pick this, of like every now and again I like to remember what Konami was.
Yeah, you remember the good times.
What they are. You know.
Yeah. No, I get that. Yeah. I really do.
Really liked it.
I guess if we don't have anything else to say, I'm going to pick Madden 94.
No, fuck you. I'm not playing Madden 94. It's not. I'll tell you. You want to talk about Madden it right now?
95.
Okay, thank you. Jesus Christ.
Much
Chris.
Better. No. Yeah, I highly recommend playing this game. If you've never played it before, it is tough as nails. There was a lot of discourse about how bad we all were at this game in the Discord channel. That was fun to read. But I guess it's time to pick my M game, and I've been waffling back and forth here. I got a couple of choices. I know what I want to pick. I don't know that I don't think it's terribly long. You know what? Give me a sec. I'm going to look this up. What's the name of that site that says how long to beat?
Howlongtobeat.com.
Let's see. Howlongtobeat.com. 5 hours.
That's not too bad.
It's not too bad. It is a little bit outside of my range, although it's a month away. And Wii games are off limits because of lack of good ways to emulate them. This is another interesting one on the same system. I don't think I could beat this game if I tried. All right, you know what? This is what I'm going to go with. I wanted to go with Metal Gear Solid for Game Boy Color. That's the 5.5 hour one.
Yeah.
I wanted to go with that, but I just think that's a little outside of the realm of what we're talking about here. The goal here is to have shorter games that we can blow through relatively quickly.
I didn't know.
So I am going to go with a game that I think is terribly underrated and does not get talked about almost ever. And that is the Game Boy Color game Montezuma's Return.
All right.
It's a sequel to an old, I think it was an arcade game maybe, but it was definitely on ColecoVision called Montezuma's Revenge. It was on Coleco and a couple of various computer systems. There was a 3D Montezuma's Return on PC. I am not talking about that one. I am talking about Montezuma's Return specifically for Game Boy Color. I think it's a really cool game, and I'd like to talk about it.
All right.
There you go. And that's what's up next for the Stone Age Gamers Alphabet Super Series. And that's going to be our show, right? You got anything else, or are we going to bed? That's it.
We're going to bed.
That's the show.
I got to get ready for WrestleMania.
Right. So let's see. What are we doing next week? What's next on the Stone Age Gamer podcast? Because I forgot to write that shit down. Right. Okay. So I think next week we're going to finally do the GBA versus Super NES thing. Yeah. We put that off, and I don't want to put it off any longer. So join us next time for our listener request, comparing the Game Boy Advance and Super NES libraries to determine which system actually had the better game library. The answers may surprise you. We don't know because we haven't done it yet. And that's it, everybody. We're on most social media platforms, and if you want to get in touch with us, we aren't very difficult to find. All it takes is a quick look at our show notes, and you'll see links to our social media accounts, as well as all manner of other fun stuff, like a link to our namesake, StoneAgeGamer.com, and more useful links than you can shake a joystick at. If you'd like to get early access to this show's episodes, as well as a bevy of other shows on the Geekade Podcast Network, check out our Patreon, also linked to in the show notes. It helps keep this show running week after week, and all our patrons are loved and appreciated. This show's theme song, Squared Roots, was written by Banjo Guy Ollie. You can learn all about his wonderful music and more by following the link to his YouTube channel, also in the show notes. And finally, as always, we'd like to thank our intrepid editor, Evan, for making the show listenable for all you folks. We'd like to thank all you folks for listening in the first place. That's it, everybody. On behalf of Dan and myself, keep playing games.